of vNOC education for our current customers and even some of our free tier signups. We're going to run through today just an overview at a high level of vNOC and all the functionality and really how to do a lot of configurations. So my name is Sarah Doyle, and I am a sales engineer for Cloud Nexa, and my contact information is listed on this screen. And feel free to reach out to me at any point after this webinar for any questions that you may have regarding vNOC and any setups that you would like to walk through. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into the webinar, into the demo. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the actual dashboard. Now, the dashboard is just going to show you a very high level of your many AWS accounts. So the first thing that I'd like to point out here is that under the Quick Cloud Account Access, you can see I have 3 different AWS accounts linked to vNOC. And what I'm looking at with the dashboard is all of those accounts as a total aggregate. So all of my running and stopped instances, my gigabytes of storage that's both available and in use. And this is a good area I like to point out to customers that if you have a lot of data that's consuming storage, you're paying for it even though you may not be using it. So it's a good area to investigate for lowering your spend by cleaning up some of that storage. You also have a monthly cost for both the current and previous month. You can define a budget in vNOC, so you can see if you are going over that assigned budget for the month. And then the cost summary is just going to give you a high-level overview across multiple AWS accounts, just the trending of your spend as opposed to what your defined budget is. And you can customize this view by date, monthly or daily view. You can see the top spending services for AWS across your accounts, and again, you can customize the date range. And then there's the concept of resource groups. So resource groups are a logical collection of your AWS assets. So your EC2 instances, your RDS databases that are grouped together for purposes of generating billing reports or assigning governance policies. So if I scroll down a little bit here now, I'll see an event summary of both CloudTrail and CloudWatch and the number of events across the past 10 days. I'll see the monthly savings that's being recommended by Trusted Advisor, as well as Trusted Advisor alerts for high CPU for all of your EC2 instances. And I'll be able to see if I'm coming up against any service limit warnings. There's also the ability in vNOC to archive your CloudWatch alarms. And you can do this by archiving all of those metrics and taking a look over the past 6 months as opposed to the past 2 weeks. So it's really giving you a more comprehensive understanding of what's been happening in your environment. Now moving on to the monitoring. So the new feature that we have now is the account review. And what the account review is going to provide is a little bit more intelligence behind making recommendations and suggestions throughout your account. So for example, it's taking a look at auto-scaling. It's saying there's some usage here. There's some auto-scaling groups that have 0 instances. So you might want to take a look at that and clean it up. There's a health check type for auto-scaling. So it has a load balancer that's not doing any health checks. So it's not really taking advantage of the full functionality. And it has all these kind of account reviews for CloudWatch, Direct Connect, EC2. So again, here's an area, so you're spending money on all these EBS volumes that are unattached, you're just not using them. So you're paying for all of these. There's also, if I scroll all the way down, one for reserved instances. So this is really important for a lot of our customers because once they have reserved instances, you need to keep track of and make sure that you're actually using the instance type that you have reserved. So let's say you put a reservation on an M4 large. You actually don't currently have any M4 larges running in the environment. If that's the case, the M4 large will pop up here and say you have 0 running instances that are related to the M4 large. So you're paying for a reservation that you're not using. Going back up, we move over to CloudWatch. This is where that view comes into play of looking over the past, say, 6 months or 2 months, as opposed to just being able to focus on 2 weeks. So what we're looking at here, I can sort and filter by particular cloud account. I can focus on a particular region or even a namespace, so an AWS service. I can customize my time frame. And then I'll get a view, okay, obviously RDS has been having the most activity, so let me take a look into that. I can scroll down, and I'll even get some more details on particular alarms. Then we have Trusted Advisor. So this is going to give you an easy way to kind of sort and filter through all the Trusted Advisor checks and filters. So as you can see here, I can filter through categories or individual statuses. If I just want to look at cost optimization. There's also a URL monitor. So a URL monitor means you can plug in your website or your URL into vNOC, and vNOC will send a ping to this URL every 10 seconds. To configure this, I'm going to come up to New URL Monitor, and then I'll just walk through the wizard. Select my account, provide a name, what the protocol is. I can see here it's going to request every 30 seconds, and I can define my failure threshold. And this will send me an email once the ping fails. Now over to Cloud Manager and Governance. So this is where you can manage governance policies like backup schedules. Now, if you're a managed service customer, we're going to do this for you just by default. It's part of our process of when you move to our support team, we're going to define what you want your governance policies and backup schedules to be. But if you'd like to do this on your own, I can see Server Backup. I'll come over to New Governance Policy. I can give it a name, give it a description, select my time zone, and I can even define my period. So what do I want these snapshots to occur daily, weekly, or monthly? What time do I want them to start? How long do I actually want to retain these backups for? And then for a further DR effort, I can even enable a cross-region backup. So if I'm located in the east, I can have a copy sent to the west. Another governance policy that's extremely helpful is lifecycle. So what lifecycle is going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to automate the process of powering on and powering off certain instances. For example, like a QA or a development environment that doesn't need to be running 24/7. This is a great way to control cost and put some automation behind it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, say Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I'll set that schedule. vNOC will go ahead and automate that process. And now provision. So provision is the ability to actually leverage our tremendous library of CloudFormation templates. So I can either select a baseline network, I can build a custom script. So let's say I want to do EC2 Linux. And I can just simply plug in all of the information right into this pre-canned template, and this will automate the process through CloudFormation. And resource groups. So again, resource groups are just the logical collection of our AWS assets. This is where you can go ahead and create and manage them. So again, if I come up to the right-hand side, I'll give it a name, define the parent group. So the first step is to create the group. And then from there, if I select this green check mark, I can assign the resources. So now I'm going to be able to see, all of my resources that I have available. I can see which resources are already in this group, and this is the best way to manage this group. And now servers. So the servers grid is going to give you a high-level view of all of your assets. And this is across, as you can see, different regions, different cloud accounts, and even different AWS services. So what I'm looking at here is EC2 and RDS all in a single pane of glass. So this is going to just make it very easy to see what you have running, what you have stopped, what the platform is. And I can very easily sort and filter by dragging and dropping this platform into a filter group. And now SSL certs. So once you link your AWS account to vNOC, and again, if you're a managed service provider or even self-service, we'll go ahead and do this for you. But vNOC will automatically go out and scan all of your AWS accounts and pull back all of the information for SSL certs. And it'll also quickly tell you what the expiration date. And now hosting. So as you can see, this is in preview. Now what hosted apps is a single-click WordPress deployment. And what this is allowing you to do is take a look at the 3 packages we have. So we have economy, standard, and performance. And it's based on whatever your requirements are. And what I'm going to be able to do is simply click Select Package. I'll give this WordPress deployment a name. I can give it a custom CNAME. I'll be able to see what plugins are available, select my application version. I'll hit Request, and this will go ahead and send the request to our support team. Once it's approved, it'll automatically provision this service for you. It's also going to allow you to monitor this deployment. So if I see here, I'm monitoring the health of the underlying infrastructure, so ELB, Elastic Beanstalk, there's auto-scaling built in, as well as RDS. I can see all of the environment health checks and all of my CPU utilization. Now audit, so this is AWS config, and this is a service that AWS released in reInvent 2014. And it's a service that's going to show you the relationships between your EC2 instances across your accounts. And the roadmap for this tool set is to really become more of a change management tool. So it's really useful that we were able to build a user interface in order to support this feature set, because right now in the AWS console, it's managing a lot of logs and able to be able to understand the relationship. So the use case behind this is, let's say that you have a project to work on your subnets. I'll come to resource type, select subnets. I can define a date range that I want to look at. And this is going to filter through all of my subnets. And now I can come down here. I'll see all of the logs. I'll find this particular subnet that I'm looking for. It's not that one. And then, so now I can see, before I make any changes to this subnet, I need to consider that these EC2 instances are contained there. So before I make any changes that can impact these instances and any of these resource types, really, I need to plan ahead in order to avoid any negative impact. There's also a UI for CloudTrail. So let's say you have a user that went into AWS and stopped an instance. I'll come to event type, select stop instance, select the date range that it happened, and now I'll see all of my stop instances. I can pop this one open, and now I'll be able to see who is the user and at what date and time they stopped it. So it's making management of CloudTrail much easier. The same logging is available in vNOC itself. So anytime a user logs into the vNOC platform, creates a governance policy or makes any changes, all of that information is captured here. Now moving on to the reports. So the cost summary is going to give you a high-level overview of the spend in the accounts. And you can focus on a particular account, or you can look at all of them. You can see the spend distribution by account, what the monthly spend has looked like, your total usage. We're going to provide a cost by service, and this you can customize right here. So you can see, obviously EC2 is about 70% of your spend, and then Redshift and RDS. Now this graph is really helpful, and we've had customers comment on this, that they love this view because they're always working in the East. So if they're always working in this East region, yet they have a user, for some reason, log into one of the EU regions and spin up a bunch of services and not shut them down, because they're always in the East region, they have no way of knowing unless they're going into the different regions, which they don't usually do. So as this would, with spending more money, it would start to grow. So it's a great way to be able to identify any user errors, like spinning up services in other regions. And then there's a cost by resource group. So if you broke out your resources by customer or by environment type, like production or development, you'd be able to track the spend here. And then there's service metrics. So now we're going to show you metrics based on the actual services that you're using. And again, we can filter through the cloud accounts or particular regions. You can see, the summary of the resource type, the event summary for both CloudTrail and CloudWatch, what the cost pattern has been. Do you have any reserved instances? How many are active? How many are retired? And then recent CloudTrail events. There's also role-based access built into vNOC, so you'll be able to create users and manage their roles. So administrators, DBAs, power users, reports. So this is a good one if you have a finance team member that needs access to vNOC just for for the spend and invoicing. You can put them in the Reports tab. All they'll be able to do is log in and see reports. Data export is a great use case if you're ever being audited. So let's say an auditor comes in and wants to see your billing, for the demo account from 2014. This is the easiest way to manage that. So this is providing all of the billing details for that year, for that account, and I can export all of them to a CSV. And lastly, there is the configuration tab. So what account sync status is, it's really if you just select account, it's going to tell you the last time vNOC went out and did a sync, made all the API calls in order to collect all the information, just so you can make sure that you're staying accurate. And then cloud account. So here is where you would link multiple AWS accounts. So you can register a new cloud account to vNOC. We'll say, give it a name, this cloud service provider, and then when you're creating the IAM role, which you can have more details for, this is the information that you'll need for IAM. And account profile. So account profile is going to be the place that you're going to want to manage all of your information, update your company profile, and even billing. So if you need to update your credit card, you go ahead and do so just right in vNOC. And this is PCI compliant. You don't have to worry about any of the credit card information getting out. So now going back to cloud accounts and even access to the AWS console, you'll be able to federate directly into the AWS console from vNOC. The quickest way to do this is to come up to Quick Cloud Account Access and select the account that you want to federate into. Or you can come here and say, click the green button, demo, say 30 minutes or an hour. You can select your duration. This is also a good use case if you have an auditor coming in for compliance reasons, that you can say, all right, I'm going to create you a user. You have 30 minutes to do what you need to do, but you only have read-only access. I'll request access, access cloud, and this will go ahead and federate access directly into the AWS console. Another thing that I like to point out in vNOC, especially for current customers that are using the platform, is under the username that you have here, documentation. This is a direct link to our knowledge base. And so this has a lot of answers to your common questions that you have for vNOC. And it also has some details on AWS services and feature sets that interact with vNOC. So a lot of information can be found here. So travel back up to the dashboard. Go ahead and open it now for any questions or comments that you may have. Again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly. I will be happy to help. My name is Sarah Doyle, and here is my contact information. So please feel free to take the remainder of the webinar and plug in any questions that you may have, any comments, how we can help you. And I hope that you found that this webinar was useful. We're going to be offering the recording in case you need it, or if you missed it. That will be available on our website, and I'm always available for questions. We're going to be doing these webinars on a bi-weekly basis, so twice a month we'll be doing these webinars for any questions that you may have. So first question is, can I get a recording for the platform? Absolutely. I'll make a note that we'll send that to you directly after the webinar. And so there's another question here. How do we set up our vNOC account? So if you're asking from a free tier perspective or just trying to get your account linked, I'll go back into vNOC. And if we go to configuration, and yep, Peter will go ahead and send you out a recording as well. So for setting up the account, configuration, cloud accounts, and register new cloud account. So this is where you'll put in all the information, but you'll need to create vNOC and IAM role. And how to do that can be found here. So this will give you all of the details that you need. Again, if I go to documentation, I can say accessing the AWS console. Let's see, create IAM for vNOC, and this will bring up the necessary information. Okay, And again, if you have any questions and need help walking through the setup, I'd be happy to do so as well. Okay, we have another question here. As an MSP who will be having the APN entry, as I am an AWS consulting shop. Yep, absolutely. I'll make a note to send these recordings out to everyone, so anybody who attended the webinar can always have this as a reference point. I will also include my contact information. I will be happy to walk you through any questions that you have, maybe configuring any governance policies. We'll be happy to do that for you. So we'll leave this open just for a few more minutes. See if anybody has any last-minute questions. Please just type them right into the GoToMeeting console, and I'll be happy to answer them as they come in. Okay. A NAT server. Okay, so a NAT server was added to our account. How can I tell if anyone ever used it? So to tell if a server was used, if it's a NAT, then you're most likely routing your traffic through that. So it's most likely being used, but that's something that we may have to take offline rather than dig through vNOC. That might be in the actual AWS console itself. So I'd be happy to walk you through that and see how that's actually architected. We can see who actually created the server. That might be a starting point, and you would be able to see who created through audit and CloudTrail. And the event type would be create image. And then we'd be able to dig through and see if you know the source IP address, which server that you're looking for, and be able to identify that. Okay. Okay, so I will go ahead and leave this open for a few more minutes. I have another question. If we use vNOC for our customers, can we create a monthly report form, the platform, and provide the reports directly to management? In short, can I export custom reports? So what you can do is through reports and cost details, if you're breaking out customers, and then again, it's dependent upon how your application is architected. Is it single tenant? Is it multi-tenant? Have you created resource groups? But the best way to do this, and we'll go on the assumption that maybe you're single tenant and each customer has their own server. You can break out your customers by resource group. Come to the Reports tab under Cost Details. This will populate all the cost details. You can define a time period that you want to look at. You can define the resource group that you want to run this report for, and then export the details to a CSV. And then if management wants to come in and at a high level just see, the summary overview, here is the resource group spend distribution breakdown. Okay. I have another question. How do I configure alarms and set notifications? So that's really dependent upon what kind of alarms and notifications you're looking to set. If you are looking at, CloudWatch, setting up alarms and configuring that kind of notification, that would be done through the AWS console. And under our managed services scope of support, we'll do that for you. You can directly work with our support team, and we'll help you get all of that configured properly. There's also, through monitoring and URL monitors, this is another alarm that you can configure, and you would do that through new URL. This would be the ping that we spoke about, that it would send a ping every 30 seconds. You can define the failure threshold, put in your email address, and then you would get an update. All right, again, so I will leave the questions open for a few more minutes. They seem to be coming in pretty steady. So I'm hoping that everybody's finding this webinar pretty useful. Again, we'll be repeating this on Thursday in a few weeks because we're doing it bi-weekly. So please feel free to re-attend. We're going to send out the recording of this webinar to everybody that attended, and I believe that we'll make it available on our website as well. All right. Well, so if there are no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this webinar. I will leave up my contact info one last time so everybody can go ahead and copy that down if you haven't done so already. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to help. You can either shoot me an email or give me a call, and we can walk through any questions that you have. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. I hope that everyone was able to find this useful. We'll be setting these up bi-weekly, so you'll be getting these emails to see when the next one is coming up. And I want to thank everyone for joining, and I hope everyone enjoys the holidays. Thank you. Take care.